Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your work in advancing this bill, and I want to thank Ranking Member Meeks and Ranking Member of the Africa Subcommittee, Sarah Jacobs, for their leadership on this bill. The humanitarian crisis that we're seeing in Sudan is incredibly dire, and it's one of the worst humanitarian crises of our time. The Sudanese civil war has reportedly caused over 400,000 deaths, forcibly displaced more than 14 million people, and caused a catastrophic level of hunger, with over 25 million people facing extreme hunger. To stop this senseless war and avert further catastrophe, the United States needs to act with the full force of its moral responsibility and diplomatic power. I was very grateful that just a few weeks ago, my resolution, HRES 1179, recognizing the 3-year anniversary of the war, passed out of this committee with near unanimous support, and I hope that we can still bring that bill to the floor for passage. The U.S. engagement in Sudanese Peace Act represents another opportunity for this body to show the global community that the United States will not let the atrocities in Sudan go unchecked. Last week, before this committee, Secretary Rubio rightly recognized that, quote, Sudan has turned into a proxy war, and noted that, quote, the divisions between the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia have truly complicated our ability to bring the war to an end, end quote. Neither of the two belligerents in this conflict, the SAF or the RSF, could operate if it were not for the external actors putting their thumbs on the scale. The UAE has clear and proven ties with the RSF, sending weapons to an army the State Department is determined to carry out a genocide in exchange for access to Sudan's gold. On the other side, Saudi Arabia and Egypt have clearly demonstrated their support for the SAF. It is unacceptable that stated U.S. allies are fueling starvation, crimes against humanity, and genocide, and they must be held accountable. I have welcomed the attention from the Trump administration and Special Envoy Boulos to this crisis, including their engagement with the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt within the Quad framework. Unfortunately, just like we saw with the Biden administration, the issue of Sudan is taking a back seat to other conflicts. While we all understand that the bilateral relationships between the United States and members of the Quad have been focused on the issues of Gaza and now the war in Iran, the crisis in Sudan is too urgent to be sidelined and deprioritized. Because let's be clear, we do have the leverage to stop this proxy war in Sudan should we choose to use it. And I sincerely hope that this committee will take action to utilize that leverage and prohibit the sales and licensing of major defense equipment to any country supporting either the SAF or the RSF. The strength of the Sudanese people, I've gotten to know them extremely well over the years that I've been working on this, is truly remarkable. And they deserve better than to be caught in the crossfires of warring parties who care only about control for the sake of control. In 2019, the Sudanese people rose up and they demanded an end to the dictatorship of President Omar al-Bashir and a transition to democracy. I was fortunate at that time to travel to Sudan on a congressional delegation in that extremely celebratory moment to meet with the new president and with so many leaders of the peaceful, nonviolent movement, and to be able to thank the people of Sudan who displayed enormous courage and resilience and sacrificed so many lives and so much for that moment. Since the war broke out in 2023, I have met countless members of Sudanese civil society and Sudanese Americans who have witnessed and survived horrific atrocities. They've shared stories of repeated displacement, ethnic cleansing, the use of sexual violence as a weapon of war, and near starvation as both the SAF and the RSF impede humanitarian access. And yet, even in the face of these atrocities, many of the activists who led the pro-democracy protests that led to the ousting of Bashir have become leaders of the emergency response rooms, a network of mutual aid groups that provide basic necessities to areas that international humanitarian organizations can't reach. We cannot ignore this crisis or waste this moment. We have to protect and empower Sudanese civilians, and we have to help bring peace and democracy once again to Sudan. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on this important bill. I yield back.